Hello everyone, today Half Fan continues to tell 5 stories about life. Please listen.
Story 251: The Journey to New Heights. Explore the journey of overcoming fear and the importance of daring to take action to achieve goals in the digital world. In a modern apartment complex in Stockholm, Sweden, where tech startups bloomed and AI shaped the future, lived a young software developer named Axel. Axel was a talented programmer, capable of writing the most complex lines of code. He always dreamed of creating Aurora, a revolutionary mobile application that connected people with nature through virtual reality. But he was always afraid of launching the product. He heard stories of failed startups, of fierce competition in the app market. He knew he had to release the app, but the fear of criticism and failure held him back. One fateful morning, a major tech event announced a Tech for Good competition, seeking applications with positive social impact. The submission deadline was just 1 week away. Axel knew this was a golden opportunity for Aurora, but fear still enveloped him. What if I launch, and the app has bugs? He wondered. What if people criticize it and the project fails? As the deadline loomed, Axel remembered the words of his old coding mentor, a legend in the tech world. Axel, he used to say, the only thing stopping you from reaching success isn't bugs or competitors, but the deploy button you're afraid to press. Those words were like a line of code that fixed the error in Axel's mind. He realized that despite his fear, he had to act. If he didn't launch, he would surely miss the opportunity, and regret would be the biggest bug in his life system. With trembling fingers, Axel began to prepare. He checked every line of code, ran the final tests, and began the app deployment process. Each step was slow, cautious, but resolute. The progress bar moved slowly, as if fear itself was trying to pull him back. At times, he saw small error messages, and his heart pounded. But he kept going, step by step, fixing bugs, optimizing. When he pressed the Publish button and the app officially appeared on app stores, a great sense of relief washed over him. Immediately, thousands of downloads started pouring in. Initially, there were a few negative reviews about minor bugs. Axel froze, his body rigid. In that moment, he just wanted to pull the app down. But he saw other positive reviews, users praising Aurora's idea and unique experience. He remembered his mentor's words, "If you don't step, you will never reach your destination." He took a deep breath, gathered all his strength, and began fixing bugs, responding to users. He wouldn't let fear conquer him. Finally, after a stressful week, Aurora won the Tech for Good competition. The app was not only commercially successful but also gained community love for its positive impact. Axel never forgot the journey of launching Aurora. He learned that even when facing the greatest risks and uncertainties in the tech world, daring to deploy, even if those steps are small and challenging, is the only thing that can lead us to success. The destination is not just a milestone, it is self-conquest. It is turning fear into action and bringing about results. Axel's deploy button became a legend, reminding everyone that every great beginning starts with an action. Lesson learned. The story of the journey to new heights profoundly illustrates the theme: if you don't step, you will never reach your destination. The main lesson here is that in the digital age, daring to take risks, overcoming the fear of failure, and daring to launch, deploy one's ideas are crucial factors for achieving success. No matter how difficult the development process or how many bugs arise, if you don't start, you will never have the opportunity to reach success. Axel, despite his fear of criticism and product bugs, chose to confront his fear and take the necessary action of launching the app. It was his persistent steps during development and deployment that helped him achieve his goal and succeed. The inspiring lessons are: overcome fear of failure. This is the biggest barrier in innovation and entrepreneurship. Action is prerequisite. Every tech project, every groundbreaking idea needs to be actualized through action, no matter how small. Embrace risk and imperfection. In the agile world, launching a product with minor bugs and iteratively improving it is normal. Don't wait for perfection. Persistence and adaptability. When faced with negative feedback and bugs, instead of giving up, persevere in fixing and improving. The value of launch, a product or idea, no matter how good, is meaningless if it is not brought to market.
Story 252. The source code of efficiency. Explore how to manage and optimize time as an invaluable asset in the digital technology era. In a cutting-edge tech hub in Munich, Germany, lived Greta, a software engineer renowned for optimizing code for maximum performance. She believed time was humanity's most valuable asset, stating, "Every millisecond that passes is a computational resource that can never be recovered." However, Greta's intern, Leo, was poor at managing his time, often distracted by social media and games. Despite Greta's warnings, Leo would simply smile and say, "I'm still young, big sister. Technology helps us do everything faster anyway." Greta worried Leo would waste his potential and wanted him to understand the true value of time resources. One day, a major project experienced severe slowdowns due to wasted processing resources, not algorithmic errors. Greta realized Leo's live source code faced a similar issue. She assigned Leo a special task: optimize a massive chunk of code she called live source code. This code would automatically log Leo's time usage on digital devices. The condition was for Leo to analyze the data and find ways to optimize his usage time to run efficiently. If the live source code didn't achieve the desired performance, Leo would reflect on his wasted resources. Leo initially thought it was a technical joke but accepted, curious if time could truly be optimized. In the first few days, Leo's live source code revealed astonishing resource waste. He still spent most of his time on activities that consumed mental bandwidth, but yielded no value. Frustrated, Leo told Greta, "This code is wrong." Greta just smiled, "It's not wrong, my boy, you just haven't found the meaning of the time processing threads you have." Her words made Leo think, "Am I truly using my time resources efficiently?" Gradually, Leo began to change. He started allocating his processing cycles to learning new programming languages, attending AI webinars, and contributing to open source projects. Each time he did something meaningful, he checked his live source code performance report. Strangely, his time resources began to be utilized optimally, and the processing threads ran more smoothly. He felt an indescribable joy, a satisfaction online distractions couldn't provide. As Leo used his time more effectively, his live source code ran faster, and his career and life transformed. He learned new skills, built a broader industry network, and felt more confident. He realized the value of each moment lay not in the number of tasks completed, but in how we optimize and allocate it to what truly matters. One day, the live source code achieved optimal performance, symbolizing Leo's true understanding and appreciation of his time resources. Leo learned not only how to manage his time but also how to live a meaningful life. He became a successful system architect, always dedicating time to optimizing his life activities. Greta watched her intern with pride. She knew Leo had grasped the most valuable lesson: time isn't an endless data stream but a finite resource, and how we program and optimize each moment shapes our future system. The live source code was now more than a measurement tool, it was a symbol of cherishing life, of a life programmed and operated fully and efficiently. And learn. The story of the source code of efficiency profoundly illustrates the theme: time is your most valuable asset, don't let it pass by in vain. The main lesson here is that in a digital environment, perceiving time as a finite and non-recoverable resource, then actively programming and optimizing its use for truly valuable activities, is key to achieving personal performance and life satisfaction. Leo, initially wasting time resources on unproductive activities, changed his perception and actions thanks to Greta's live source code. He realized that every precious processing cycle, when used meaningfully, would bring joy and personal growth. The inspiring lessons are: time is a finite digital resource. View time like RAM or CPU, needing careful allocation and management. Analyze and optimize time, logs, use tools or habits to track and evaluate how you are using your time. Eliminate time wasting, bugs, identify and eliminate distracting, unproductive activities that reduce efficiency. Code, for growth, invest time in learning, acquiring new skills, and personal development. Find performance in meaning. True satisfaction and happiness come from using time intentionally, contributing, and experiencing life fully.
Story 253: The Virtual Reality Journey. Explore the profound transformation in perceiving the world and oneself through digitized travel experiences. In a smart apartment in Milan, Italy, Marco, a talented UX designer specializing in VR, AR, created incredibly realistic virtual environments for clients, recreating famous world landmarks. He believed that travel was about admiring beautiful sights and capturing them in 3D data, often saying, "Travel is seeing what the digital world can recreate." However, despite his VR tours being visually beautiful and detailed, they lacked a genuine emotional connection for users. Viewers simply saw the screen without any deep resonance. Marco felt stuck. His perfect VR experiences weren't touching users' hearts, and he wondered what he was missing that algorithms couldn't simulate. One afternoon, as Marco frustratingly tested a VR demo of Venice, Professor Elena, an old data scientist with sparkling, wise eyes, approached him. An expert in machine learning emotion, renowned for analyzing user psychological data, she looked at Marco's demo and stated, "Young man, you are simulating visually, but you are not simulating with emotion. Travel is not just seeing, but a change in perception." Initially offended by her critique of his technology, Marco was nonetheless intrigued when Professor Elena invited him to her lab. Her lab was filled with biometric data, emotion analysis algorithms, and brain response simulation devices. Marco was confused. Professor Elena wasn't focused on perfect images but on deeply understanding human emotional responses. She explained that an experience isn't just visual input but a symphony of senses and emotions. She showed him how a small detail can create empathy and how a virtual environment can trigger perceptual change. She advised him to feel the data, not just see it. Gradually, Marco began spending time with Professor Elena. He learned to let go of his obsession with hyper-realistic graphics, instead perceiving users' emotional vibrations through biometric feedback data. He learned to listen to the stories the data told, allowing his emotions and empathy to guide his design. He experimented with integrating vivid sound, artificial scents, and gentle haptic feedback into his VR tours. He no longer tried to perfectly copy reality, but aimed to convey his emotions about that reality. He began designing VR experiences whose outcomes he couldn't predict, allowing himself to get lost in emotional connection. For a Florence tour, he not only recreated the architecture but also simulated the laughter of locals, the warm sunlight in the piazza, and the peaceful feeling of enjoying morning coffee. For a Dolomites tour, he didn't just recreate the majestic peaks, he simulated the feeling of wind blowing through one's hair and the awe of untouched beauty. Marco's new VR experiences were no longer just landscapes to be seen, but stories to be felt. They had depth, they had soul. Users no longer just looked at the screen, they felt the connection, empathy, peace, and vibrancy Marco conveyed. Tech critics began praising the emotional breakthrough in his VR tours. Marco not only became a recognized UX designer, but also an emotional architect in the virtual world. He proved that true digital travel isn't about perfectly recreating reality, but about touching hearts, evoking emotions, and making viewers experience something deep within, even changing their perception of the real world. Marco's virtual reality journey now represented more than graphic simulations. It was a reminder of the power of emotion and a technological vision that had truly found its meaning. Lesson learned. The story of the virtual reality journey profoundly illustrates the theme: travel is not just seeing, but a change in perception. The main lesson here is that in the technological era, the value of travel, even through digital means, does not lie in the ability to perfectly reproduce images, but in the ability to create a profound experience, evoke emotions, and change how users perceive the world and themselves. Marco, a technically talented VR simulation UX designer, did not succeed until he learned from Professor Elena that he needed to design with emotion, and not just visually. By changing his approach, he created experiences that could make others feel, not just see. The inspiring lessons are: user-centered design with emotion. Focus not just on functionality and interface, but also on the user's emotional experience. Beyond technical perfection, while hyper-realistic graphics are good, emotional connection is what truly brings value. The power of emotional data. Use data not only to analyze behavior but also to deeply understand user emotions and reactions. Simulate experience, not just visuals. Combine multi-sensory and psychological elements to create vivid, profound experiences. Technology as a catalyst for perceptual change. Use technology not only for entertainment but also for education, inspiration, and changing people's perceptions of the world.
Story 254. The Happiness Network. Explore how true happiness does not come from external seeking, but from connecting and sharing value within the digital community. In a smart city in southern Vietnam, Emily was a popular online influencer. With millions of followers, she curated content about a luxurious lifestyle, believing happiness is having immense engagement across all platforms. She had all the virtual validation many longed for: likes, comments, and virtual gifts. However, despite her huge following, Emily always felt empty and uneasy when her camera was off. She constantly worried about declining engagement, compared herself to other influencers, and struggled to sleep. She felt stressed seeing happier moments posted by her virtual friends. Emily wondered why she, who appeared perfect online, couldn't find true peace. Despite creating new content, buying luxury brands, and attending lavish events, happiness eluded her. One afternoon, as Emily was melancholically editing photos, an old university friend, Lan, a programmer for community projects, messaged her. Lan lived a simple life, rarely used social media, yet her infrequent posts about community aid projects exuded positive energy. Curious, Emily messaged Lan, "You're not very active on social media, why do you always seem so full of energy?" Lan smiled in her reply, "Emily, happiness is not something you find on social media or through interactions, it's something you create from within yourself, by truly connecting and sharing value." Lan invited Emily to join a small open-source project she was developing, a platform connecting volunteers with local social initiatives. Emily hesitated, accustomed to glamorous activities. But Lan's words resonated. She decided to follow the advice, though she doubted a community project could bring happiness. She spent evenings learning to contribute code and attending online volunteer meetings, following her curiosity without a specific plan. At first, Emily felt lost. The complex code lines and discussions about social issues lacked the glamour of the influencer world. She saw only ordinary people quietly contributing their free time without needing recognition. She tried to work in her usual content creation style, but something felt missing. One evening, while helping volunteers build a search feature for the platform, a message popped up from a user: "Thank you for this platform which helped me find opportunities to help elderly people in my local area. My life is so much more meaningful." Reading it, Emily felt a warmth spread through her heart, a feeling entirely different from thousands of virtual likes. She was no longer seeking, she was sharing. She felt the true value of her work, a genuine connection with the community, and the joy of creating a positive impact. She began contributing more, not only writing code but also using her communication skills to promote the project, not for personal engagement, but to attract more volunteers. She started to see the beauty in quiet contributions, the core values she had never noticed before. When the project became a resounding success, connecting thousands of volunteers and social organizations, Emily was completely transformed. Her posts were no longer just about herself but about inspiring stories from the community. Her engagement might not be as immense as before, but the comments were far more genuine and profound. She no longer worried about external validation. Emily proved that happiness isn't found on a screen or through virtual numbers, but is an internal state created through genuine connection, gratitude, and sharing real value with the community. Emily's happiness network was now more than a digital platform. It was a reminder of the power of giving, of an artist's soul that had truly found its meaning in a connected world. And learn. The story of the Happiness Network profoundly illustrates the theme: happiness is not something you find, but something you create from within. The main lesson here is that in the digital age, where validation and value are often measured by engagement and virtual metrics, true happiness comes from the ability to create meaning, make genuine connections, and contribute real value to the community, nurtured from within oneself. Emily, an influencer reliant on external validation, did not find happiness until she learned from Lan that true happiness comes from sharing and making a positive impact. By shifting from seeking virtual engagement to building real value, Emily created happiness for herself. The inspiring lessons are: happiness is not likes, personal worth and happiness should not be defined by virtual metrics on social media. Authentic connection, prioritize meaningful relationships and interactions over a superficial quantity of connections. The value of digital giving. Use your skills and technological platforms to contribute to society and create positive impact. Create value from within, instead of seeking external gratification. Cultivate inner peace and purpose through meaningful action. Balance virtual and real worlds. Recognize that real life and meaningful contributions outside the screen are the source of sustainable happiness.
255 The Soul's Sensor. Explore how true art in the digital age is not about perfect reproduction, but about evoking emotions and making others feel deeply. In a small interactive digital art gallery in London, UK, where giant LED screens projected artworks and AI algorithms analysed audience preferences, lived a young multimedia artist named Liam. Liam was a talented artist, with skilled 3D projection and visual effects (VFX) programming. He could create stunning dynamic visual experiences, from glowing data streams to recreated hyper-realistic landscapes. He believed that art had to be perfect, had to be as real as a photograph. He held the belief that art is what you see, perfection in every pixel. However, despite his digital artworks being visually beautiful and technically impressive, they failed to captivate audiences. Visitors would only stop for a few seconds to take photos, then quickly move on. Tech art critics only praised his advanced technology without mentioning emotion. Liam felt frustrated. He had tried his best to create perfect visual works, but why didn't they touch viewers' hearts? He wondered if he was missing something he couldn't create with code or algorithms. One afternoon, as Liam was adjusting parameters on an interactive light installation with a frustrated expression, an old digital art curator, with a long white beard and eyes sparkling with insight, approached. It was Mr. Julian, an expert in generative art, known for his highly expressive works despite their simple forms. Mr. Julian looked at Liam's artwork and said, "My boy, you are projecting with the screen, but you are not projecting with emotion. Art is not what you see, but what you make others feel." Liam initially felt offended. He was proud of his digital skills and graphic creation abilities. But Mr. Julian didn't argue. He simply invited him to visit his art lab. Mr. Julian's lab was cluttered with old circuit boards, sound and light sensors, and generative artworks that seemed unfinished, yet possessed a strange depth. Liam felt confused. Mr. Julian didn't focus on creating perfect images, but on generating emotional responses through interaction and environmental data. He explained to him how a random sound could evoke memories, how a small change in light could create a sense of peace, and how a simple algorithm could also connect with the soul. He advised him to feel the sensor data, not just see it on a graph. Gradually, Liam began spending time with Mr. Julian. He learned to let go of his obsession with resolution and frame rates, how to feel the vibrations of sound and the transformations of light through senses. He learned to listen to the stories that environmental data wanted to tell, how to allow his emotions to guide interactive design. He began experimenting with integrating viewers' biometric senses into his work, so their heartbeats or breaths could influence colors and sounds. He no longer tried to perfectly recreate reality. Instead, he sought to convey his emotions about an experience through interaction. He began creating artworks that he didn't know where they would lead. He allowed himself to get lost in emotional connection. When he created an interactive forest space, he not only projected images of trees but also integrated the sound of wind, the scent of damp leaves, and light changes based on viewer movement, so they could feel the vibrancy and peace. When he created a piece about the ocean, he didn't just project waves but also used ocean sound data and color changes based on viewer voice intensity, so they could feel the vastness and solitude. Liam's new artworks were no longer perfect in the traditional sense, but they were full of interactive energy and emotion. They had depth, they had soul. Audiences no longer just looked at the screens, they felt the empathy, the awe, the peace, and the profound connection that Liam had conveyed. Art critics began writing articles praising the emotional innovation in his interactive art. Liam not only became a recognized multimedia artist but also an emotional architect in the digital space. He proved that true digital art is not in the perfect recreation of reality, but in the ability to touch hearts, evoke emotions, and make viewers feel something deep within, transforming them into a part of the artwork. Liam's soul's sensor, now, was not just lines of code and images. It was also a reminder of the power of emotional connection, of an artist's soul that had truly found its voice. The lesson learned. The story of the soul's sensor profoundly illustrates the theme. Art is not what you see, but what you make others feel. Edgar Degas. The core lesson here is that in the era of digital and interactive art, the fundamental value of a work does not lie in its graphical perfection or technical programming prowess, but in its ability to create a profound emotional experience, making viewers feel and interact with the artwork on a personal level. The inspiring lessons are: art beyond visuals. In the digital world, leverage multiple senses and interactive elements to create rich experiences. Design for emotion. Aim to evoke emotions and create a personal connection with the audience, rather than just creating aesthetically pleasing images. Power of interaction and biometric data. Use sensor technology to make the audience a part of the artwork, allowing their presence to influence the artistic outcome. Beyond traditional perfection, embrace expressiveness, abstraction, and even imperfection, if it serves the purpose of conveying emotion. Art as an experience. Shift from creating static objects to creating living spaces and experiences that change with viewer interaction.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye and see you in the next short stories about life.